Hi, this is Jeff Thigpen, Guilford County Register of Deeds.
And I'm Carly Malcolm, Lead for North Carolina Fellow for Guilford County from the UNC School of Government. And welcome to the Good Grief Podcast.
Have you ever lost a loved one and had to figure out what to do? Have you ever felt alone and overwhelmed? Did it make you wonder why on earth this is all so complicated?
In this podcast series, we bring together community partners to talk unapologetically about issues of death and dying. We answer questions about funerals, hospice, estates, and more to give our listeners the knowledge they need to make decisions for themselves and their loved ones.
We want everyone in Guilford County to know that they're supported, that we live in a community where we can not only live and live well, but when we die, we can also die well because we care. So we thank you for joining us for the Good Grief Podcast and for taking this step to be better prepared for end-of-life challenges. This is Jeff Thigpen, Guilford County Register of Deeds, and Carly Malcolm, Lead for NC Fellow from the North Carolina Institute of Government. And welcome to the Good Grief Podcast. Today we're going to talk about death certificates at the Register of Deeds office. Our guests are Assistant Register of Deeds Andrew Atkins, who's the current manager of our Vital Records area, and former manager and Assistant Register of Deeds Elaine Inman. Andrew's been with our office for about 16 years, and Elaine has been here for nearly 19. So between the two of them, they've been here for a combined 35 years of knowledge about death certificates in our office. So I want to welcome you both. As we begin, I just want to give listeners an overview. The Register of Deeds office has basically two core areas, land records and vital records. Land records deals with real estate transactions and any number of legal documents. Vital records covers birth and death certificates and marriage licenses. We offer certified copies of each. Citizens can file military discharges and take part in our Think of It program too through Vital Records. That's where we partner with around 400 businesses to provide discounts on goods and services. And Andrew works along with that program as well. With that background, let's talk a little bit about death certificates. Andrew, where does the death certificate process begin?
So the actual death certificate starts as a blank template and is provided by the state office. Usually the funeral home gets information from the family and fills out the personal information such as date of birth, social security number, education level, etc. Then it would go to the medical doctor to sign off of and provide a cause of death. Then the public health for further review and sign off. And then it winds up in our office, the Register of Deeds office, to review and to put on record.
So we have, a death in the family, and then, as you pointed out, it goes through a number of these different areas before it gets to our office. And I'll let you explain, what is our basic role? What do we then do?
So the Register of Deeds office records, maintains, and issues death certificates. Just last year, the year of 2019, we recorded well over 5,600 death records in Guilford County. We issue certified and uncertified documents, and it just depends on what, you need the certificate for, whether it's certified or uncertified.
And about how long would it take to get the death certificate?
About 7 to 10 days. If there's an autopsy needed, you can count on it being anywhere from 3 months to a year, to get back the toxicology reports and any other types of additional testing that the medical examiner deems appropriate.
Mm-hmm. Who do we work most closely with death certificates?
So we work more closely with the health department and funeral homes.
And Elaine, what do most people use the death certificates for? I know that you have, as I have, in many cases, we've dealt with this in our own lives, but you have experience in terms of knowing what these death certificates are for. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, a certified death certificate is needed to file an insurance claim, to access any bank accounts, or to close a bank account. The certificate is also needed for any retirement accounts an individual had or any 401k accounts. If there is a surviving spouse, the Social Security office usually needs a certified copy as proof of death in order for any benefit changes. Certified copy of the marriage license is also needed for Social Security office in these instances.
Mm-hmm. And when people come in and get these death certificates, of course, we have individuals come in funeral homes. Is there an average that they usually get?
Well, Well, it can vary on the amount of certified copies needed. If there are several insurance policies or retirement accounts or any property, one could be needed for each account. A lot of people will get 3 to 4, but copies can be obtained at any time if more are needed.
We were talking about this the other day, and you mentioned the idea of getting marriage licenses too sometimes. Tell us about that.
Right. Yeah. Social Security will need a marriage license. If there are accounts in 2 names, a marriage license may be needed also just to prove that you are married to the individual, especially if there are benefits involved.
Okay. And that one other thing is if a body is going out of state, what do folks need to do in those situations? Someone has died in, say, North Carolina, and they need to go out of state for burial.
Right. Before a body can be transported out of the state or even out of the country, a burial transit permit is needed. These are normally obtained from the health department, and the funeral home that is assisting the family will usually obtain these or help the family obtain them.
And Elaine, say there's a problem with a death certificate. What would someone need to do?
Okay, if a mistake is found on a death certificate, contact the funeral home assisting the family. They can usually work with our office in correcting or amending the document. For an amendment, proof documents are required, and of course there are fees involved. The fee for a death amendment is $25, and the Register of Deeds office will complete the amendment paperwork and forward to the state office in Raleigh. Once they review and approve the process, an amended document is sent to our office to replace the incorrect one. This process can take anywhere from a couple weeks to several months to be completed.
Okay, thank you. That's some good information to have. So, Andrew, we're living in the time of COVID-19. Can you talk about what our current protocols are?
Yes, so currently we are closed to the public, but if you do need death certificates, the general public can go to ncvitals.com to get certified copies. If you're working with a funeral homes generally provide those for the family. Some funeral homes have an online portal which they can submit a request and we'll fill it just like that. They can also come and pick them up, the funeral homes that is.
And what would a person need in order to obtain a certified copy of a death certificate?
So for certified copies, you must be an immediate family member, such as a spouse, parent, direct ancestor, descendant, step-parent, stepchild, brother, or sister. It can also be someone seeking legal determination of personal or real property rights. This would reasonably be an authorized agent, attorney, or legal representative of any of the above. Must have a photo identification, and it's $10 per certified copy.
Okay. And is there a way, do we have death certificates online?
So, not the images, but we do have the indexes available, which would, for a death certificate, just be the decedent's name and the date of death. You have to register for that. You would go to our website and click on the online research to log in or to register for the account.
And then we also can offer mail-in requests for death certificates, right?
Absolutely, yes.
And so genealogists also use our records. What's the easiest way they can get access to them?
They can sign up for an account online. They can register for it. They can view the index of the death certificates, and if they need uncertified copies of the death record, they can send the request through the mail to obtain uncertified copies of death records.
Okay, and so they can do that, and then if they get access to the online system, they can see the person's name and the date of death. It'll be very limited information. They won't be able to see the certificates, but they'll be able to get some information that will help them do research in many cases.
And with that information, they could request the uncertified copies.
Okay.
That would be all they would need, would be the decedent's name and date of death.
Okay, thanks. All right. Well, thank you, Andrew and Elaine, for joining us on the Good Grief podcast to talk a little bit about death certificates. If you want more information about the Register of Deeds Office Vital Records area, you can go to Guilford County Government online or www.guilforddeeds.com for more information. Thank you very much for being part of the Good Grief podcast.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Good Grief Podcast. We want your feedback. You can visit our website at www.guilforddeeds.com.
You can also email us at endoflife@guilfordcountync.gov or find us on Twitter with the handle @Guilford_ROD. We hope you've enjoyed this episode, and until next time, take care.